Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British bias bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening everyone. It's felt like the longest time, only a week off, but we are back to talk all about the 2025 Miami Grand Prix. Image looks a little bit different, doesn't it? I'm testing out a different camera. This isn't the final finished piece. And if you're listening audio only, you wouldn't even know, would you? You wouldn't have a Scooby. But welcome everyone here live on the chat. Jerome, Somebody, Werner, Dr. Jack, Freestar, Icron, Slides, David, Famke, Laddie, Sugar Ray, and the rest of you. Let's chat Miami, shall we? It feels like F1's been away forever. I don't know. Maybe I've just had like a busy week. But it feels like there's been... It feels like a year. I feel very, very out of practice, even though we've only had a week off. What's going on with that? Maybe it's just a me problem. Maybe it's just a me problem. Welcome, Michael. First time watching live as well. Desktop Bodybuilding and the rest of you. Thank you all for joining me. Today, let's chat a little bit of Miami Grand Prix, shall we? Round 6 of the 20. It was all right when I went, but it wasn't amazing. Got to say, wasn't amazing. And the quiz is tomorrow, by the way, David. Shout out quiz for tomorrow. Quiz of the month, right? Get to know. So what we're going to do, bang, small bang, mild clang. What do we make of the circuit, the track? Now we've had a few years in, it's not so new, it's not so fresh anymore. What do you reckon? And also, if you've got buffering issues, just reset. Okay, that should fix it. I don't know why it does it. It just does it. And I don't know why. I still don't know why, but excellent condition on mine. So it should be, if you're watching this after the fact, you definitely shouldn't have any problems. If it is stuttering for you. Also got, what is my hair doing in this cap? My hair's all over the place. I'm having a bit of a stinky hair moment at the moment. We'll sort this out. And thank you, Ragav, as well, for the super chat. My glorious smooth operator is back. Number 1 driver. I'm assuming you're talking about Mr. Carlos Sainz. Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption there, because he is certainly doing better last Grand Prix out than he was at the start of the season. It was always going to take time to adjust for Carlos, never having driven a car with a Mercedes engine prior to this year at Williams. Oh, Carlos. So there you go. But yeah, let me know in the poll what you think of the Miami Grand Prix circuit. 4% of you think banger, 23% of you small bang, 52% of you mild clang, 21% clanger. I think those results are better than they were after maybe 22 and 23. I mean, it's got a way to go. It doesn't really have, in terms of character, it is somewhat missing. The race last year wasn't terrible. There were some interesting moments for sure. So I've got my, do I think this will be a better race than Suzuka? I do, even though I much prefer Suzuka as a circuit, So we'll see. We'll see this year out. We're going to see plenty of special edition liveries, I think, as well, leaning in to the kind of teal and pink vibes of Miami. The teams love it. Okay, the marketing teams absolutely lap it up, don't they? Round 6 Miami. I'm looking forward to it. You know what? I'm looking forward to it this weekend, although I'm actually on holiday this weekend. But I will be doing my best to keep on top of the coverage. And the post-race chin will be coming on Monday instead of Tuesday, which is kind of normal for this Grand Prix anyway, because it's Miami, so it's late in the day UK, so it makes sense for me to do it Monday anyway. But I'm going to be watching on from afar. Let's have a little look at the circuit, shall we? Miami International Autodrome, 5.4 kilometers long, 57 laps in the end. Pretty flat. It's built around the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, kind of north of Miami. A fair bit north is Miami Gardens. Running into turn 1, this is where we saw Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent have a shunt last year, which the knock-on effect safety car led to a certain Mr. Lando Norris getting his first ever F1 race win. Now, the S's are very impressive. Turns, 4, 5, 6. When I went in 2022, I was sat on the inside of turn 4. And when you're seeing, in qualifying, these cars go full tilt through those S's, it's very, very, very impressive. So, yeah, you put in a lot of energy through the car in this early part of the lap. And then you've got the long left-hander where, again, many persons come a cropper. Was that Lando who came a cropper there? Or was it Gasly? Or did Gasly crash into Lando? I can't remember. I remember someone coming a cropper on that long left-hander. So, yeah. And then you've got the long rundown. The long rundown. It's all concrete walls, so it can get a bit sketchy if you're going side by side. And then you've got the kind of final main sector where they have to slow the cars down. But you get some good side-by-side action, you know, into turn, what is that? Is that 13? No, 11. Turn 11, you get some decent side-by-side action, 11 into 12. You do get a lot of people getting pushed off, which, do I think that's going to happen again? Probably. Do I think that could happen on lap 1, where, you know, 5-second penalties instead of 10-second penalties? I definitely think that absolutely could happen on lap 1. I don't know if there's, you know, because that's a fair bit through the lap, isn't it? If you're lap 1 and someone's going off to stay ahead on the exit of turn 11, would they still give a 5-second or a 10-second because it's so far through the lap? I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd agree, David. 11's the best overtaking zone, followed by 17, I'd say. But then, yeah, you slow the cars right down. You have that super fiddly sector, which, to be honest, I don't mind, right? It's not an overtaking position. Okay, laps what? Corners 13, 14, 15, 16. You got the bollard. It's a bit awkward. It is a challenge. It's you know, especially over a lap. And we had the Alpines going side by side through there last year as well. Of course they were, Gasly and Ocon. Them two just can't help themselves. But it's a challenge. You need to slow the cars down because there is the road going above the track at that part on like turns 14, 15. And if you didn't slow the cars down, there was always the chance for an aeroplane crash. Mark Webber, think of him in Valencia, right? So that could, yeah, you don't want that. That's the last thing you want, right? That's the last thing you want. You drive along, and then Sauber comes flying over. Bosch, Gabriel Bortoleto gives you a little wave as he's being flipped around, and hopefully he lands back on all 4 wheels. But we won't get to say that, as entertaining as that would be. As long as it'd be fine, of course. Then you get the long back straight. You got to be careful with the wall here as well because it's not arrow straight at the start. The concrete can be a bit deceptive. I've seen drivers talking about this. George Russell has talked about how the advertising boards. I think that's the case a lot of these concrete circuits, right? When the track limit is defined by a wall and then you've got advertising and you've got different colours as well, that can really mess with drivers' perception. So you've got to be a bit careful on the exit of turn 16. The long run down to 17, that's where we saw Sainz and Piastri have a little bit of a squabble, didn't we, last year, which resulted in damage. And Bosch, lap done, lap complete. Miami Grand Prix circuit. It's not a worldie of a track, no doubt. It's definitely restricted by the infrastructure around it somewhat. But I'm optimistic for a half-decent race this year. And yeah, basically half of you think it's a mild clang, 25 small bang, 20% clang. So yeah, I mean it's the weakest of the 3 US Grand Prix venues. I think Vegas has delivered. Actually, it's been pretty interesting. The races we've seen at Vegas so far, and Austin is a classic banger. Okay, and it's due to rain. I mean, Mia, yeah, perhaps I've seen a couple of you actually mention that there is potential for rain this weekend in Miami. Obviously, being in Florida, being on the coast, you can get some pretty crazy weather in Miami. So hopefully it's not enough to disturb. Because what was the year? Was it 23 or 24? Not during the Grand Prix weekend, but wasn't there flooding? I remember there being some flooding at the track either a couple of years ago or the year before. So hopefully that doesn't disrupt. Yeah, I'm all for a wet race, absolutely. But as long as it doesn't disrupt things going on, because that would be an absolute pain in the rear end if that was the case. So yeah, last time out, Lando Norris took the win. His first ever win in Formula 1. He'd had opportunities before it, couldn't manage to get it done. But fortunately, you know, Lady Luck was on his side. You've got to say that timing of the safety car was an absolute blinder for him because Max had already pitted. Oscar had already pitted. Oscar was leading this race at one point. It was Max who was kind of ahead. And Oscar was arguably the stronger McLaren driver up to a point. And then the timing of the safety car was an absolute blinder for Lando when Magnussen and Sargent had their incident. Took the race win though. You give and take. It's motorsport, right? Lando got unlucky sometimes. Opportunities where he could have won races and it didn't happen. And this one kind of fell into his lap and he took it. He took the chance that was presented to him and won ahead of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in those. Don't really like them blue Ferrari overalls. I think I'm hoping for something interesting from Ferrari livery-wise this weekend. We've not seen anything yet, but they've certainly alluded. It could be interesting. Yeah, I know Imola was cancelled due to flooding, but I'm sure there was flooding in Miami like a couple of months before the Grand Prix or something. Maybe I'm getting confused. I feel like they didn't they. I swear I remember seeing a picture of like Miami with the stadium, and then it was just flooded. But I don't know. Again, yeah, Florida weather is unpredictable. Do you reckon overalls are banger? I'm not sure, Rainer. I'm not sure. They just dropped some overalls, did they? Oh, okay. We'll have to have a little butch at them then. The Ferrari race suits. I guess doing the stream at this kind of time means that stuff is going to be dropping. Ooh, wow. They are blue. Dubba dee, dubba die. Jeez, okay. These are very blue. Right, this is a great opportunity for me to... let me just... They are very blue. Wow, they are more blue than I thought they'd be. I mean, look, we're talking about it right now. So let's, if I just do this and then downloads and then drag this onto here, boom, and that's Lewis Hamilton in his blue overalls. Look at them, Jesus, they are very blue. Now, will the car be blue? Remains to be seen. But that's very blue. That is very, very, very blue. And it's not photoshopped, is it? It doesn't look photoshopped. I think if it is, they've done a very good job. No. That is definitely because I've just seen the video. They've posted a little video. Damn. I mean, they look nice. I prefer these. I prefer this year's, what Lewis is rocking, to what Charles had last year. I do. That's kind of cool. Look at that. Boom. Happy days. Right. Cool. Overalls. Nice. It's an interesting. Wasn't expecting to have a look at that, but I thought it was half decent, you know. So yeah, last time out, that's kind of how it played out. The Magnussen Sargent incident definitely. I mean, there was some half decent moves going about, but that kind of brought the race alive a little bit. So that was what happened last time in Miami. Now, qualifying head-to-head so far this season, we've had 6 qualifying, including sprint qualifying. Of course, in China. Sessions to compare the drivers. We're going to compare over the course of the year, and I just thought I'd quickly reflect on how we're looking going into this weekend at Miami. Verstappen Tsunoda is the biggest gap on average. Again, there's not many sessions to look at between them two, but 0.763 is the average. Then Russell Antonelli, 4 tenths. Then Alonso Stroll, 0.28. Gasly doing 0.27. Leclerc Hamilton, 0.22. Hadjar Lawson, 0.15. Albon Sainz, 1.4. Hulkenberg Butler 1.4, Piastri Norris 1.4, and then Behrman Ocon 0.092 of a second is the average delta between those drivers going over the 6 sessions we've had so far this year. Who's going to come out on top around Miami? So you got to say it's a confident. Any track with concrete walls, any street circuit is a confidence track. I hope Lewis has found something. In terms of his feeling with the car, his lack of confidence in the car underneath him. I hope Lando has gone away and taken this break to recover in whatever ways is best suited to him. You know, some people would say he needs to get his head in the books and really knuckle down and use this week off to recover in that way. Others would say that he needed to go out clubbing and enjoy himself and get his head out of F1 and recover in that way. Who knows, right? I don't know the guy. Whatever works best for him, works best for him. But there's a few drivers who are going to need a big weekend. I think Jack Doohan's one of them as well. Jack Doohan needs a big weekend. I think he's knocked on the door a few times, close to Gasly, but not come up clutch enough, I would argue. But the promise is definitely there with Jack Doohan. We know Colapinto's waiting in the back, and who knows what's going on with sponsors. There's a lot of talk about Argentinian sponsors not actually having the cash. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Remains to be seen. New updates for Max, not that I'm aware of, Julian. New updates for Max should be next weekend in Imola. Also, Ferrari, I believe, are bringing upgrades for Imola next weekend as well. So hopefully, Because if we can add, it's very much McLaren and Max, this title fight at the moment. Even George is close, but he doesn't feel like he's really... Mercedes aren't giving him the car to be really in the fight, even though he's maximising. But if we can just add Ferrari into that, come on, please. Please find something. Please, I beg. And yeah, that's how we're looking. Let's keep an eye on it this weekend in Miami. So driver standings, just a reminder, as follows. 10 points ahead. Piastri ahead of Norris, 99 to 89, and then Max on 87, George on 73. Those are the main ones you want to be keeping an eye on. Can Alonso, Lawson, Doohan and Bortoletto, can one of them score this weekend? Because they are the only 4 drivers with nil points to their name so far this season. And don't worry, we will get onto the subject in the thumbnail soon enough. Don't you worry. I just, use that to dangle that carrot, and then we do our little preview, bangers and clangers, and then we'll talk a little bit about Checo and Cadillac and whether that's going to get announced this weekend, because there are rumours that it may. We will see. So those are the driver standings. Team standings, McLaren comfortably ahead. You've got to say, surely it's a done thing. I mean, they would have to, because the thing is, George is obviously carrying Mercedes a bit. Antonelli's done very well, of course he has, but George is the guy maximising that package more than Kimi, of course he is. Ferrari are two very competent drivers, even though Lewis is struggling, but the car just isn't there. And obviously Max is doing the job, and Yuki, it's going to take time for Yuki to even get close if he can, which we just don't know that yet, even now. So, constructors should be an absolute sure thing for McLaren, which is kind of, I think, good entertainment-wise, because it means that McLaren are more likely to not try and interfere with their drivers in terms of a title fight and just kind of letting them have at it. Because if the constructors is comfortable, then, the floor's yours, lads. Go for it. Lando, Oscar. Whoever comes out on top, happy days. That's what I'm hoping for, honestly. Because, I mean, look, for me, I don't care about constructors. There's nothing that excites me. I mean, okay, maybe get to the end of the season last year, Ferrari, McLaren. Yeah, it was close, and there's a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. But, come on. Realistically, I don't give a damn. All right? And I don't think most people do. It's the driver's title that we're here for, and hopefully we get a decent, lovely, beautiful fight right until the very end. That would be simply lovely, wouldn't it? That really would be simply lovely. Thank you. I'm going to quick super chat break. Thank you, Jamie, by the way. Hope you are. Thank you, Blue and Barto. Thank you very much for the super chat. What do you think of the possibility of Mexican teammates Checo Perez versus Pato O'Ward, or plus Pato O'Ward, should I say? Like a month ago, Pato said that he would be really into it. Greetings from Mexico, Tomo. Thank you very much, Blue and Berto. That would be, I mean, look, Pato O'Ward, I think, would do a stellar job in Formula One. I think he's absolutely capable. I think he's got a great character, a great personality. We know the Mexican fan base is huge. And, I mean, because Pato's been so active in North America for so long now in IndyCar, I think he would, not just invigorate the Mexican fan base, but I think there'd be a big US following for Pato as well. I think he has to be. I mean, we know his connections, his links to McLaren are big. I think Pato is a massive contender. Absolutely should be a massive contender. I get why they would go for Checo between the two of them if there is a choice between Pato and Checo. And obviously Pato is that bit younger as well. So, Checo has the relevant F1 experience, which I think would pay massive dividends to Cadillac. But Pato would be amazing. Do I think they would go for both? I mean, it would tick a lot of boxes. I do still think Cadillac want an American in one of those seats. And whether that is a Colton Herta, obviously, again, you would bring a lot of the Indy audience would want to see how Colton stacks up, I think. Even like a Jack Crawford, perhaps, who's I think impressing and has that experience at Aston Martin in his reserve duties. Doing well in Formula 2. I think he's a very promising young driver, and he's still not even, I think he's 20, isn't he? Or 19, Jack Crawford? Yeah, I mean, Checo's a sensible pick for Cadillac. I think Pato is the more exciting, riskier choice. I love Pato. I think Pato's top tier. I think he's, again, great character, great personality, big following. That would be sick. That would, I would, if I had to choose who I'd like to see in that seat more, I'd say Pato. I would, but Checo offers so much that I think he's the right choice. Even though Pato, I think, brings the vibes. You know what I'm saying? And thank you, Ragav, as well. Now it's clear that the problems of the second Red Bull were always a drivability issue. I mean, the thing is, Ragav, that was clear after what happened to Gasly and Albon. And even Checo's first year, like, you look at his deficit to Max in 1 lap pace, and it was never less than, 4.5 tenths. So that was always the case. And I think 2 things can be true. It was a drivability issue, yes, but also the car was what it was, is what it is, and Gasly wasn't right for it, Albon wasn't right for it, Checo wasn't right for it. Now, Lawson, according to Red Bull, wasn't right for it, even though I don't think 2 races is enough to actually make that conclusion. And Yuki, will Yuki be right for it? Who knows? Now, you can argue maybe no one's right for it apart from Max, and maybe that is the situation, but you can see where the results were so bad with Checo. Red Bull they had to make a change. They had to try and make a change, even if there's no one else apart from Max Verstappen in the world that would do much of a better job. You get a driver with experience in, can't do it. You get a driver younger who's more coachable, like Gasly and Albon, can't do it. Lawson, you don't even give him a fair crack of the whip. Who knows, right? It was always a drivability issue. Checo is still as good as he was in 2020, absolutely. We've seen this time and time again. Just because Carlos Sainz comes into Williams and has a few bad weekends at the start doesn't not mean he's lost his ability to, the guy who can out-qualify Charles as often as he did and win races. Same with Lewis Hamilton, the struggles he's having with Ferrari, even the struggles he was having at the end of Mercedes. He's not just lost all that ability and that talent that got him to 7 world titles. So many drivers. That's what makes those who can consistently do it, consistently operate at that top level. And, the driver, the only, it's hard to know how much of this is a wobble, because I wish Alonso had a more established, known entity teammate than Stroll, because I do think Alonso is the driver who arguably has been the most consistent driver in modern times over the course of their entire career, in terms of, I can't look at a single year outside of where he is at the moment with Aston Martin. I can't look at a single year throughout his entire career where he didn't perform very close to the ceiling of his car. And I include McLaren 2007, by the way, because yes, Lewis came in, but Lewis had more than an entire season's worth of testing before he even started that Australian Grand Prix. So it's not like Lewis came in all, bleary-eyed and like he wasn't a rookie. Not like rookies nowadays. Not like Hadjar and Bortoletto had like barely any running. Sorry, I'm getting massively sidetracked. I'm getting massively sidetracked. I apologise, anyone who's hoping for a proper Miami deep dive, because we will get back onto it. I just went off on one. Anyway, where am I? What was I talking about? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, you know what? No, let's have a little talk about this Perez Cadillac thing, yeah, before we get into the bangers and clangers for this weekend's Miami Grand Prix. So, Perez, Checo will be in Miami. The first time he will be back in the F1 paddock since he ended last season with Red Bull Racing. Now, Cadillac have an announcement on Saturday. I believe we're going to see their livery for the first time. A mock-up, kind of like what Audi did when Audi showed us a mock-up of their livery on a show car. I imagine it will be the same show car with a Cadillac livery on it. So that's kind of exciting. Now, we've already seen, have Cadillac posted anything? I don't think they've posted anything fresh. But again, the time that I'm doing this stream, they might be posting fresher stuff. I've not seen anything. Oh, there is a little video they've posted on their socials, but it's not giving. It's literally just the logo I'm not even going to bother showing you. You can have a look on Twitter if you want, but it's just a slow-mo 3D Cadillac logo in black and white, so it's not telling us anything at all. But I am excited to see what Cadillac have up their sleeves. Is it a coincidence that Checo's going to be there in Miami and Cadillac are using Miami to soft launch the team? Perhaps. I mean, look, obviously Miami is as close outside of the Mexican Grand Prix, is the next closest in terms of home race for the Mexican fan base. There's a big contingent of Latin American fans who will be there to support Checo, and Checo being there kind of makes sense, but also Cadillac being there in the US. It just feels right, doesn't it? And the more that, again, we already knew that realistically it was not, Checo not working in that Red Bull car does not mean that he's got no ability in the same way that was the case with Gasly. Proven. That was the case with Albon. Proven. So, yeah, it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? It really does tick all the boxes. Cadillac are coming in. Big play from GM. Got the 2029 engine. We should have Cadillac engine from 2029. Ferrari to start with. What box doesn't Checo tick? He's established. He's experienced at a smaller team, which Cadillac will be at the start. All his years at Force India, working within that environment, that got the best out of Checo, and Checo got the best out of the team, and it kind of worked for all parties. He's a North American driver. He taps into that fan base that is absolutely there and established, and the Mexican Grand Prix hopefully will continue. And maybe this is, maybe that's a factor as well, where Formula One and there should be a Mexican Grand Prix on the calendar. I don't love the circuit, but there absolutely should be on the calendar. And there's a good vibe to it, especially the stadium. That's like really interesting. I like it. So I think that I just believe this is going to happen. And as Liam and Yuki's struggles, I think Yuki's struggles will continue, to be honest. I do. I don't see any good reason for them not to. This just makes Checo look even better and better and better and give more confidence. And sports fans can be fickle, right? And you forget quite quickly about what Checo is capable of. And we know he's not done with Formula One either. Cadillac seems like just the perfect opportunity for both sides of the coin, both sides of the coin. So yeah, I think this, will they announce it this weekend? I mean, that would be sick. Do I actually think part of me is like, why not? Because it works on so many fronts, Checo. Even though I'd love to see Pato in that car, I think Checo works on so many fronts. Maybe give Pato reserve duties that he can split with McLaren, because you've got multiple drivers, who are reserves across different teams. That's why we saw Bottas in a McLaren, right? Because Mercedes power, I guess that's the thing with Pato, he's a Mercedes powered reserve driver, whereas Cadillac are going to be now Ferrari powered. So I don't know how that works, but I don't think Zach would stand in Pato's way. Pato is a Arrow McLaren driver, but if there was an opportunity for Pato to even reserve, that could be cool. But I could see it, actually. I think I could see it. I could see them announcing Checo as a Cadillac driver this weekend. I could see it. Baku last year showed that he had it. And that's the thing, David, because a track like Baku is, it's fully rear limited. It's the rear tyres you've got to worry about because you've got no fast corners. It's the front limited circuits, which F1 is... Most tracks at least have some front limited corners. Baku basically has none. So, yeah, around that kind of circuit, Checo can look pretty close to Max. I think that would be the same when we go to Baku, whoever's in that car, whether it's Yuki or they put Liam back in or they bring Mika Hakkinen out retirement, whoever it is in that second Red Bull seat, I think will run pretty well in Baku. And also Checo is particularly good around those kind of circuits, so that also helps. But yeah, look, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great to see Checo announced back on the grid next year. I think Miami's a great place to do it alongside this Cadillac livery reveal. And then you've got that second seat. And then it's like, well, who's interested? And then you've got reserve drivers. You've got potential, they're going to have an F1 Academy team. Do Cadillac want to do F2, F3, blah, blah, blah. There's so many ways it could go. But I think Checo announcement, if I had to put money on it, I wouldn't put much money on it. I'd put like a tenner. But I'll put tenner on it. I'd be prepared to lose a tenner on that bet if the return was about 50 or something. Time will tell. Time will tell on that front. Another thing, briefly, Pink V-Carb this weekend looks like it. They've been pushing Pink on their socials heavily, and you can see a little blurred pink Formula 1 car at the back, which looks like it has the white Red Bull on the top of it. So I'm excited to see that. How close to my pink will it be? It's looking a bit more hot pink. Mine's a bit more of a reddy pink. So we'll see. I think it will look good. And also, Kimi's got a Netflix documentary coming out. I just thought I'd drop this in. Kimi Antonelli has a Netflix documentary about called The Seat, inside the biggest driver change in F1 history, around a certain young Mr. Kimi Antonelli. Now, of course, if Kimi does turn out to be that guy, which he looks like he could well be, the potential is absolutely there, then I guess Netflix are cashing in early, because if he ends up being a 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 time world champion eventually one day, then they'll be like, look, this is where he started. This is where the story began. Okay. The biggest driver change in F1 history is a stretch. I'll give him that. It is a stretch. I would argue Piastri leaving Alpine. That was certainly the most out of pocket driver change in F1 history. I think biggest is certainly subjective, but good for Kimi. Good for Kimi. That's probably why they had the cameras in, wasn't it? Loitering around when Kimi got the call from Toto to be like, I'm not going to do my Toto accent. That would definitely get me cancelled. Saying that he will race for the team in 2025. Netflix always clickbaiting. I mean, it's the name of the game, isn't it? Some would say the same about me. Right. I think I've covered that enough. Should we do bangers and clangers? I think it is that time, isn't it? Are we ready, everyone? Are we ready, everyone, for bangers and clangers? Who's going to win the 2025 Miami Grand Prix? My prediction is Lando Norris. I think this week off, he won the race last year. You can definitely argue Oscar was the better driver, ironically, around Miami last year, but got more unlucky, caught up with Carlos, and wasn't even on the podium in the end. But I do think that this week off, I think Lando is going to find a way to sneak pole and win the race. Great, now Lando will lose. You're here for bangers and mash. I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do that for the post race. I'm going Lando. I think the McLarens, with their tyre preservation wonder, it should be a McLaren 1-2 until Imola next weekend, where potentially these Red Bull upgrades and Ferrari upgrades help them close the gap. I think McLaren 1-2. This may well be the last weekend we can say this year. Hopefully this is the last weekend of the year where we can say this should be a McLaren 1-2 because of the upgrades, because of the flexi wing changes in Barcelona as well that are coming. I think I'm going Lando. I think it's going to be close, but I think Lando might, just because I still think when Lando hooks it all up in qualifying, I think he definitely can go quicker than Oscar over a lap. And I think the dirty air could save Lando in terms of staving off his teammates. But imagine if Lando wins Oscar second, then there'll only be 3 points between them. Is that the right maths? Yeah, 25 to 18, 7-point difference. 10-point difference right now. Oscar would be ahead by 3. Because, look, of course, the chaos merchant in me, and I'm sure most of you, you want to see battles. You want to see what are the most memorable title fights. You look at how memorable, Lewis and Nico was. Not even over a season, over multiple seasons, right? This is what I want to see, man. I want to see these two going at it. I don't want to see anyone running away with it. I want to see us going into Abu Dhabi season finale with multiple drivers able to win the title. And when it's two teammates as well, there's a whole nother dynamic to it because the team's got to manage it internally. I love it. I'm here for it. Come on, Lando. Don't let Oscar get away. Because it's definitely advantage Oscar right now. But don't let him get away. Because I want to see you two fighting. All right? Scrapping. That's what I want to see. So my race winner is Lando Norris. But what about you? Well, 1,338 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting. If you didn't vote or you didn't see the poll to vote, make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel and then you'll see community posts, or follow me on Twitter at Tommo McCluskey and I post them on there as well so that you can get involved in the pre-race and the post-race polls. That would be lovely jubbly. Quick reminder. Your prediction for race winner of the 2025 Miami Grand Prix is also Lando Norris. 43% of you went Lando, 32% of you went Oscar, 8% Verstappen, 6% Leclerc. Now, I'm assuming this is in part because maybe there is a belief yet that this weekend off it will be good for him and he can bounce back and right the wrongs of Saudi Arabia. Also, yeah, he won the race. Now, again, I think actually performance-wise, Oscar arguably did more than Lando, but Lando obviously got the outcome, got the win. I do think it's going to go back and forth between these two. I think Lando's far too good to just let Oscar drive off into the sunset, even though it is advantage Oscar right now. We're talking such fine margins here. Not just between the McLaren teammates either, right? The formula's so close at the moment. You've not got those big pace deltas between cars, which inherently does make it more difficult to overtake when you've not got enough of a pace advantage, So it is kind of swings and roundabouts. Oh, yeah, and there is a new stake livery. Thank you for reminding me, Matt. And I'm not even going to bother showing it to you because it literally just looks the same. It's just paint blobbers, and it's not worth mine or your time. Sorry. If they'd have bought a new colour or something, all right, sick. I'll jump on that, but afraid not. Not for me today. So 43% of you went Lando, 32% Piastri. So there's still plenty of Oscar believers out there. 8% Verstappen. You can never write off Max, especially if it rains. Especially if it rains, the boy from Belgium, who represents the Netherlands, will be there no matter what. And then Charles Leclerc, 6% of the vote. Bit too soon. Hopefully, please, Ferrari, Imola upgrade. Please. If they can bring a decent upgrade in Imola, that is enough Grand Prix the remainder of the season for Ferrari to be a factor and Charles Leclerc to still win the championship. Come on. I want to be correct in my prediction, okay? And if Charles can just sneak through and win it, well, I predicted Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, top 3. If Ferrari can find something and Leclerc can keep banging on that door and chipping away, time will tell, all right? I'm not writing off my prediction just yet. I still think there's a way this comes true, okay? I believe. What about Banger Drive then? Who's going to deliver most impressively this weekend at the 2025 Miami Grand Prix? Well, my Banger Driver, I'm going for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. I think the documentary will have filled him with gusto and he will be ready to do a banging job this weekend. I don't know. Look, I think Kimi's been very, very, very impressive. He's very raw, of course, still. And it's the boring stuff. That 4/10 delta in qualifying between him and George. I think that's because, tyre prep, manage them throughout the lap. It's that kind of stuff that I think is the bigger hurdle for Kimi Antonelli. I think the absolute raw ability and talent is there, no question. And I think as each weekend goes, he's going to get a little bit more on top of it. We know Kimi. Do you know Kimi's got like an insane recollection for like numbers? If you've seen the video of him and Ollie Behrman when they were teammates in F2, and Ollie will just shout out some random race that they did in like Italian F4. Like, what lap did you do in like sprint race 2 at Monza in 2019? And Kimi can just, I did that time, and he can just recite it off the dome. Like, Kimi's approach is very, very meticulous, and I think working with a team like Mercedes, he still needs more time, but I think he's going to get up to speed pretty quick, and they clearly believe in him, because all of the talk about Russell and Verstappen, who's going to be in that Mercedes next year and onwards, you know, I don't think anyone's considering that Kimi isn't there and it's George Verstappen. There's no shot that happens. Kimi's got way too much potential. Verstappen Antonelli super team would be crazy, but that would be so harsh on George. So harsh on George. And George just got what? He got a Mercedes, that GT1. No, what is it called? Mercedes AMG 1. Is it? Like his own personalised version. Which doesn't feel... And I know Bottas got a Mercedes gifted to him before he left. But giving George like the AMG, the top AMG, which has basically an old F1 car engine in it, to give George one of them doesn't give me, oh, we're going to get rid of you vibes. Unless it does, and this is our way of paying you off, George. I don't know. I just feel like if they'd have given him like an A-class AMG, maybe that's just a bit of a, here you go, George, just have some little hatchback. Boom. I don't know. We'll see. Parting gift. He didn't get it, he bought it. Yeah, but I'm sure LP for it. I'm sure he got a deal. I'm sure he didn't pay retail. All right, come on. If he did pay retail, then damn, that's muggy. But I'm sure I'm sure some of George's own personal money went into that car. But in the same way that McLaren they did like a custom build McLaren for Lando, didn't they? When he got it in like purple, which I didn't really... No, it was like dark blue, wasn't it? I didn't really like the colour. Compound anyway. Absolute mates race, exactly. Exactly that. So I'm going Kimi Antonelli, banger driver this weekend. And you have gone with Charles Leclerc. 18% of you believe. That's 2 weekends in a row you've gone for Charles Leclerc as banger driver. 10% Antonelli as well. There's Antonelli believers out there. 9% Lando Norris and 9% George Russell. I'm pretty sure those numbers aren't correct, and I just didn't update them. Oh no, they are correct. Wow. Okay, fair. Charles actually, yeah, I mean, usually the banger drive vote's really close, but actually an 18% to a 10% gap is pretty big. So there you go. There you go. Charles Leclerc, banger driver. Don't write him off. Charles was quick around Miami last year. Has always gone well around there, apart from when he's having a shunt in the wall in qualifying. But other than that, he's cooking. Clanger driver, on the other hand, who's going to stink this weekend? I've gone with Lewis. I think we've not got the upgrades yet. He's struggling. He said last weekend that he doesn't expect things to be any better at Miami. And with the walls so close, this is a track that's going to punish you if you're not confident and you're not comfortable in your car, which Lewis clearly isn't. So my best prediction is that Lewis is going to have a stinker, to be honest. And I think Charles, where I do agree with you, not giving him banger, but I agree, I think Charles will maximise the car around a track like Miami. I think Lewis, that delta in qualifying has been getting bigger as much as it was pretty close at the start of the year. I think in part that was because Charles was still getting on top of this year's car, which they said is 90% or wherever it's different to last year's car. But now Charles seems to have found his feet with this SF, whatever it is this year. I think as Charles is getting more comfortable, and that's going to make it harder for Lewis because then he's chasing more and he's seeing Charles put in these times, and it's like, ugh. So Yes, I'm going to go Lewis Clanger, I'm afraid. And your Clanger is Lance Stroll, because of course it is, because you always vote for Lance. 14% of the vote, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who also had 14% of the vote. But the actual difference was Stroll had 184 votes, Lewis had 173. So 11 more of you voted for Stroll over Hamilton, which means Stroll wins Clanger driver prediction. Jack doing 11%, Liam Lawson 9%. It's the banker vote. Yeah, but just be creative. Come on, let's go with someone else for once. Banger team. I've got McLaren. Should be a 1-2. I think we're doing. I think it's C5 to C3. So on the soft range in terms of tyre compounds this weekend. Hopefully Pirelli will continue to do that and will have learnt from what happened in Suzuka, where they were way too hard. And I think, yeah, McLaren in the heat. If it rains, who knows, right? But it's going to be hot regardless in Miami. I think McLaren this should be a McLaren 1-2, really. I don't want F1 to be predictable, but this should, in theory, be a predictable result. And then banger team for you is also McLaren. 29% of the vote, 18% Ferrari, 16% Mercedes, 11% Williams. Come on, Williams. I mean, they've sacked off this year already, Williams. They're all in on 26, which actually I think is quite sensible. You know, they've got a car that's clearly capable of getting points, and they've got two very capable drivers, and Carlos is only going to get more comfortable in this car. And as Williams, if you're just focusing on, right, this is the car we have, now it's just a matter of learning and helping Carlos adapt, and you're not having to worry about, right, oh no, Carlos, we've got an upgrade, so we're going to have to change. Like, you can just, right, this is the car we have to the end of the year. So you don't have to worry about that as a variable when you're trying to coach Sainz and get him up to speed and get him fully engrossed within that team. So, you know what? Fair play. I think Williams have got a decent car underneath them, and they don't need any more upgrades because they'll be flying in 26. You know it. And then Clanger team, for me, I've gone Sauber, because if in doubt, Sauber it out. They've got a tricky car. I think confidence is a problem for both drivers. And again, it's not just that it's a slow car, because actually I don't think the Sauber ceilings are that far off the Haas, the Alpine, the Williams even. I don't think that it's just, it feels like it's very unpredictable in its nature, that car. And I think I could definitely see at least one of these two, Gabby or Nico, having a shunt in qualifying, because, again, confidence, and if you're on a bit of a tricky car, you're going to be punished. Be creative. I know, right? I tell you to be creative, and I'll go with Sauber Clanger team. Peak hypocrite right here. And then, finally, your Clanger team is Aston Martin. 27% of the vote, 14% Sauber, 12% Red Bull, 10% Alpine. Do I need to explain why Aston Martin have got your Clanger vote? No, because they have continued to clang for far too long now. And I hope for their sake that, look, maybe they have sacked off this year and they're just throwing all in 26. Good, because that's what they need to do, because they need to give Fernando a chance to win that 2026 title. Please. Please. So, your vote, Lando, Charles, Lance, McLaren, Aston Martin. My vote, Lando, Kimi, Lewis, McLaren, Sauber. So 2 of the same, 3 different. We'll see in the post-race CHINWAG on Monday who comes out on top. As Lando's head gets slightly bigger in the second one for some reason, which bugs me, but there you go. I'm the one responsible for these graphics, so I will take it on the chin. Wag. Okay, I think we are about done. Let me check if there's any super chats. Super chat. Chin's definitely wagging. It is Jamie. It is Jamie. We've wagged a lot today. We have wagged a lot. And thank you, David, as well. Super chat, Perez and K-Mag will be the most sensible choice. I guess you're talking about old Cadillac, ain't you? Perez K-Mag. I think. So I think, you know, there's the Cadillac lineup that I want to see versus the Cadillac lineup I think we will see. It's kind of 2 different things. The Cadillac lineup I'd like to see, it would be cool to like full IndyCar, Pato and Colton. In terms of the lineup I'd like to see, Pato, definitely. Pato / Colton, but I think Pato would be really exciting. I think Pato's got so much charisma. You know that Mexican fan base is there and waiting, and not just the Mexican fan base. I think the US fan base would follow, the IndyCar fan base would follow Pato to watch how he does. Oh, and then who alongside him? I mean, I think there's drivers who deserve a shot. I think Felipe Drogovic deserves a shot, but again, this isn't about deserving. This is about who. Pato and I know they need experience. I agree, right? And this is what I mean. I think what I'd like to see is Pato alongside someone, young, someone exciting. Maybe. Yeah, Crawford would obviously tick the US box. Newgarden. Joseph Newgarden, imagine. I mean, I'm sure Alex Palou should be knocking on that door as well. I don't know if it'll open for him at Cadillac, but he absolutely should be knocking on that door. Kyle Larson. Yeah, Kyle can prove whether he is the best all-round driver ahead of Max Verstappen. Porsche, Mika Hakkinen, of course. I think Pato Awards alongside... Yeah. Pato Awards, Felipe Drogovic. I really feel for Felipe because I know he didn't win F2. He took 3 goes at it, but when he did win it, he was very convincing. And I've only ever heard super positive stuff about Felipe Drogovic from people in the space, and when he's done FP1s, he's been really good. And then Bortoleto kind of beat him to be that first Brazilian back in F1 since Felipe Massa. And I really felt for Felipe, and I still do. And that would be cool. I think Award Drogovic is probably the vibes that I would like to see. But realistically, I think Perez absolutely 100% makes sense. And then as long as he can get the super license points over the line, I think that would be Colton Herta alongside him. Because, I mean, Colton's experienced in IndyCar, not in F1, but is an experienced racing car driver and still very young. So you've got not F1 experience, but it's a different kind of experience that I still think is valuable. Perez, Herta, surely. And maybe we'll hear about Checo this weekend. Remains to be seen. Thank you all for joining me here live on YouTube. Thank you also for joining me wherever you are joining. Tomorrow is the quiz. Quick reminder. Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, Quiz of the Month edition. At the start of each month, we'll reflect on the goings-on in Formula 1 of the month prior. 20 questions, 4 possible answers. Let's see if you've been paying attention. Play along live on YouTube or after the fact on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. That's right. So I will see you tomorrow for that. Only relevant to things that have happened in the month of April. It will be live on this YouTube channel tomorrow, then post-race CHINWAG on Monday to talk all about what is going to happen at this weekend's Miami Grand Prix. Thank you again, Matt, Xavier, Quintar, Clausey, Gabe, Lawrence, Matthew, fill in the blanks, Versatility, Hilita, Christopher, Priest, Jamie, Will, Leo, your boys Ray, Maria, and the rest of you. My name is Tommo. It's a pleasure, as always. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.